Evening, YouTubers. This is Johnny here. It's New Year's Day. I want to wish everyone a Happy New Year's. This video sucks. I'm aware of that. Normally, I have my other camera. This time, I didn't bring it. I really wish I had. I regret that now. So I can see the quality isn't that great. But this is what I have, so this is what I'm going to use. I'm going to try to center this a little bit. There we go. Anyhow, I just want to talk tonight about a few things I've noticed coming back to Xela. I don't know if that's going to help. I don't think anything's going to help with this camera. Anyways, this is a Microsoft. Well, this is a laptop that's not really old with Microsoft 10 on it. I'm really disappointed in the camera. Anyways, I just want to continue on with the video, but I want to comment on some of the things I noticed since being back in Guatemala for about a week. One thing that sticks out is whenever I walk around into different neighborhoods, like right now where I'm at now is a different neighborhood I have never really walked around in Xela in 2 or 3 years of being here. And I noticed I get a lot more looks. That could just be because it's a new neighborhood and there's not a lot of gringos here. But I have seen that even in Zone 1 and Zone 3, places I've been through quite a bit. So from what I've seen and noticed, there's very few gringos. Just the expats that actually I've seen quite a few that I actually know personally, say hello to and everything. But other than that, there's really not a lot of tourists here. Like I said in previous videos, in one of the hotels I was in, I was the only guest, of, 30, 40 rooms. It's like the only guest. Quetzal Trekkers is now, I don't know if they're out of business, but they stopped doing tours in March, is what the lady told me. In March, they left their offices and closed everything down in March. If that's what she said, I've never been part of Quetzal Trekkers, so I haven't confirmed that. One of the big businesses at the Central Parque Central is, I forget the name, it's Cafe something, but it's one of the bigger players here. They went out of business right away. There's still, some of the big chains are still around. So anyways, I just noticed that walking around, because Xela has had quite a few tourists and expats, and there's just not anymore. I've just noticed that. And so people tend to check you out more because you're very unusual now. And I mean, just men and women in general will be checking you out, even in the places where I had previously been quite a bit. The other thing I noticed is on New Year's, or New Year's Eve and then New Year's, is when the firecrackers go off at midnight and then at 12 noon the next day, just like on Christmas, they do the same thing. I was here on Christmas too, so I've noticed, at Christmas and New Year's, this may be in my head, I may be remembering wrong, but in the past, you'd have fireworks and firecrackers going off for 30 minutes. This time it's been 10 or 15 minutes. I thought it was just me. I thought, I don't want to make comment on it because I'm probably wrong. But anyways, a friend of mine in Brazil said he'd noticed that too. Now, he says like 5 or 10 minutes, where in the past, people would light off firecrackers for much longer. Here in Guatemala, it's about 30 minutes, or at least in the past it has been. So that's got me to thinking people are spending a lot less on stuff, firecrackers and fireworks in general. People still having a good time here, but I have noticed that they're not just lighting off firecrackers and fireworks as much. That's another thing I noticed. Of course, there's a lot more things now that I'm making a video. I can't think of them all, but one of the big takeaways is there's just not a lot of expats and or tourists here. Next week or the week after, I'm going to be heading into Zone 1, 9, and 10 and some other places in the capital. So I'll try to give an update then on, what's going on in the capital. But so far coming across the border, that was crowded. I've never seen the border just that crowded. And that's what's weird, because people aren't traveling, but there's a lot of cross-border trade going on between Mexico and Guatemala. I mean, the traffic of people and cars was so much. I really had to pay attention, make sure my feet didn't get run over. That's the first time I've ever experienced that. So it's weird. On the one hand, the traffic of people is huge and cars going back and forth. The actual traffic of people going inside the migration, immigration. It was just two people, me and this other Guatemalan dude and his grandson. Everyone else just walked across the border. I know some people get frustrated and contact me and tell me how awful it is, but it is what it is. I thought there would be some changes, but there's in a pandemic, epidemic, so-called. I don't want to comment on that. I don't, everyone has their views on that. But for what's going on, if there really is a pandemic, and I think there is something with coronavirus, I'm just not sure what we've been led to believe this is as severe as we've been led. That's about all I can say. That's just my opinion, though. But if this is really true, there's hundreds and thousands of people walking in and driving across the border. No passport control, no nothing. I mean, when I go into the United States, whether I walk across the border or whether I fly in, you always have to go through passport control no matter who you are. And it's pretty tight who they let in. Either that or you go across the border with a coyote, which I don't do. But anyways, I just noticed I won't say too much, but I was with a lot of Guatemalans on the last part of my leg from Mexico into Guatemala, and man, like everyone, me and this older gentleman with, none of them went through passport, just me and him and his grandson. We were like noticing that. Anyways, there's no like soldiers or police or anyone stopping people. Now, of course, a lot of that border stuff, there's people who have permission, I would gather or guess. But from just personal experience from going from Guatemala to El Salvador, not now, but in the past, and from Guatemala to Honduras, there's borders, places where you can go and no one asks you nothing. One time I was going into Honduras and I came out of the immigration, and this is the first time I've ever seen immigration police checking passports to see if you actually got your stamp. And I asked them, do you want to see my stamp? Or they said, no, they didn't care. And then they gave me the impression, well, if you don't have a stamp, just come back when we're on lunch because no one replaces us. That's really how things work in Latin America. People, again, send me hate mail sometimes, but not all of Latin America, just certain places. It's a little bit like certain parts of Africa, like the locals don't get their papers and visas. They just walk across the border, go into they go into Tapachulo, or they go into Comitán. Usually Guatemalans can get permission to go that far and do cross-border trade, but past Chiapas, usually Mexico has an agreement with the U.S. not to let them go past there. I've heard that. I don't know that. I probably should verify that, but from Guatemalans I know, some of them don't have any problem getting visas to go into the interior of the country, but others do. Why that is, I don't know, because I know two sisters like that. One can go anywhere she wants in Mexico. She can get a visa. The other one just to the close border areas. And a lot of Guatemalans just go there to shop and bring back stuff. Pseudo foreigners. There's a lot of things you can't get in Guatemala that you can get in Mexico, especially like in San Cristobal or Comitán or Tapachula, stuff like commodities and things like that. Anyways, I just wanted to make this video to highlight the two things I noticed the most. There's just a lot less commerce going on. It seems like more people stay in. I mean, because it's the holidays, it's hard to know, but it seems like there's a lot more business. They're just out of business. It also seems like, to me, there's a lot less commerce going on. But Guatemala is still great. There's still a lot of people, hustling and making money, but it does seem to be toned down a little bit. It does seem like when it comes to bars and restaurants, the trade just is not there. It's just not there. So I was fairly impressed by how much the tourists and a lot of expats brought, because I didn't realize as much as it was, because there's just empty hotels. There's a lot less. Like, for example, you can go into McDonald's or eCafe and get a coffee. And normally the places I visit, before this pandemic, it's hard to get a seat. Well, now they took half the tables out, or they put signs on tables, so half the table so you can't sit down. But even though that's there, you can still most of the time get a place to sit, even though half the restaurant or half of eCafe, you can't even sit down. Like, for example, in eCafe, they basically have 4 tables. And anytime I've ever been in, there's always been one of those 4s that's available, and sometimes 2 or 3. So there's just not a lot of traffic right now going inside eCafe. That's another thing I noticed. Like, they used to have 3 or 4 employees there all the time when I would go in there. couple of girls, a couple of dudes, like four, I think four, sometimes more, sometimes less. But now there's just one employee for like everything. So like if there, I mean, like I said, there's not a lot of traffic, but if there's 2 or 3 people there, you'll have to stand in line a while, wait for the guy to bring up your order, and then, you know, get your order ready, depending on what the other people ordered before you. But that's just not as true as McDonald's, but they still have their employees there because I suppose they're, you know, even though they're a franchise, they can still afford to keep employees on. But some of the other businesses, they don't have a lot of employees anymore. Now at McDonald's, I was surprised you can sit down because usually you can't. Usually it's pretty crowded, but it's just not crowded anymore. Even though half the tables have been taken out, you can still find a seat, whereas previously it was jam-packed all the time. You could hardly ever get a seat. So either the economy is slowing down, which I think is probably the case, the world economy and the local Guatemalan economy, and this epidemic. What happened in Guatemala is they had curfews and other things. They had the same thing in Peru. Peru was more extreme in how they approached it than, say, Guatemala. But because of all that, my understanding, my belief is the economy really took a hit. I don't know what the numbers are. I don't know if we'll ever really know the numbers. I don't know the extent they even really collect numbers here in Guatemala, but you could just tell with some businesses there's a lot less employees. And it seems like a lot less foot traffic in a lot of these places. That's just my big takeaway. The other thing is you can get your favorite hotel, your favorite Airbnb now because there's just not as many people traveling. And even though I say this, it appears they're going to reopen, but just today the Philippines just issued a thing. Starting January 3rd, you cannot go to the country anymore. You can't get a visa anymore. And previous to January or today, they got rid of all the retiree visas. You can't get a retiree visa until further notice. And then today they just said, like, if you come in now on January 3rd, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks. And then after January 3rd, they're not letting any, specific to the United States, any American tourists coming in. Same thing's happened with Great Britain or the United Kingdom. Well, I should say England. I'm not sure about the whole United Kingdom, but my understanding is England and possibly the whole UK cannot go to a lot of countries now. They're, well, I don't want to say prohibited, but a lot of countries have shut down entry for UK passport holders. And my understanding too, even Australia is like that. So if this goes on and countries keep doing 2 weeks or 4 weeks prohibiting tourists and business people to travel, this is going to even wreck the economy. This is sad. It's going to wreck the economy even more than it is. This is going to, unfairly hit the poor as opposed to the middle class and the wealthy. But the poor and middle classes, you can start to see they're getting decimated. It's really unfair. It's really unfortunate. What's even more unfortunate is it seems like half the population in the U.S. seems to be happy with that. I don't see how you're going to put half or more of the population of the U.S. on some kind of welfare program. I don't even know how you're going to fund it, whether it's inflation or tax or whatever. Like, how's that going to work? I don't know. I think in a year or so, we're going to see a real ugly economy in North America. Even uglier economy in Europe and the UK. I'm not sure about the UK, but I just expect, because the US is so dynamic, that we'll be affected. And since Europe in general is less dynamic, they'll be even worse. The UK is more dynamic than Europe. That's just my opinion. Like, when I think Europe, I only really think of Germany. Germany is probably the most productive economy there. And when I think anything other than that, I think the Netherlands, which is small, and then the United Kingdom, which is a big, but now they're out of the EU, so God bless them. I was for Brexit. That's just my opinion. People can send hate mail if they want. I'm cool with it. I just prefer more liberty for people in general and freedom. But it appears to me, I was wrong. I thought this was all going to end, but it appears to me just today the Philippines is not going to let Americans come in after January 3rd. More and more countries are going to do this with this new strain of corona. So this is going to decimate the world economy. I don't see the elites giving all these handouts to poor middle class. I know people think that and believe that and tell me, yeah, it's going to happen. They're going to get their welfare scheme or their, UBI. Maybe. I just don't know how that's going to work, how you're going to fund it without high tax or inflation. I don't see that happening in North America. I just don't. But we'll see what happens. I've been wrong before. Anyways, this is just my short video. It's turned in off 15 minutes. I just want to wish everyone on my channel a Happy New Year, and I hope they had a really prosperous celebration and with their families on Christmas and New Year's. And I hope they don't give up hope, and I hope they continue having a good new year and hopefully a prosperous new year, even with all this crisis and kind of BS going on. I mean, it's going to be tough for a lot of people, but for some people, this is going to be the opportunity of a lifetime to create a fortune if they go in that direction. Same thing with expating and going offshore. It's never been harder and it's never been easier. It's like we live in the best of times, the worst of times, like, you know, like the Dickens novel. Like, yeah, it's not going to be easy, but it's as easy as it's ever been. And at the same time, the U.S. government, the EU is cracking down on letting the tax cows leave. I mean, I know it's not funny, but like you could just see it in real time. You could just see it in real time, what they're doing. Anyways, like, share, leave a comment. If you disagree with me, leave a comment. If you agree with me, leave a comment. Tell me what's going on in your part of the world, what you think's going on, and how things will unfold in your part of the world. Anyways, have a good evening. Thanks.